The man who controls his speech controls his destiny, for nothing reveals the state of a person's mind more quickly than the way he speaks. His words are windows into his inner world. If his speech is chaotic, unfocused, or emotionally reactive, you can be assured that his mind is undisciplined and ungoverned. On the other hand, when a man speaks with precision, with calm certainty, with deliberate thought behind each word, it is a signal that his mind is under his command. Mental discipline is the foundation upon which all success is built, and controlled speech is the most visible proof of that discipline. You may dress the part, you may walk with confidence, you may accumulate the symbols of wealth, but if your words betray fear, insecurity, gossip, anger, or aimlessness, your character remains untempered. It is not what enters a man that defiles him, it is what comes out. Therefore, speech must be guarded more diligently than gold. The undisciplined mind rushes to speak. It fills silences with noise. It reacts instead of responds. It expresses every fleeting emotion without restraint. But the disciplined mind does not leak energy through idle words. It understands that speech is a sacred act. Each word spoken has power. Each sentence carries the vibration of your thoughts, and thoughts are the seeds of action. Therefore, careless speech is not just a social weakness. It is a spiritual betrayal of one's higher self. There is a time to speak, and there is a time to be silent. Most people have never learned this. They seek attention rather than understanding. They confuse verbosity with intelligence, but true intelligence is silent until it has something of value to say. Controlled speech demands that one pause before speaking, reflect before reacting, and question whether the expression serves any definite end. When a person develops mental discipline, they become highly selective in their speech. They ask themselves, does this serve my purpose? Does it build, uplift, instruct, or direct? Or is it simply a release of emotional pressure? The wise understand that most speech in the world is used as an escape from thinking, but the disciplined individual embraces the power of silence as a tool to deepen thought and purify intention. Controlled speech is also a mechanism of emotional mastery. The person who cannot stop themselves from lashing out in anger, who gossips when frustrated, or who speaks boastfully when insecure, has not yet conquered their own emotional domain, and until that battle is won, no outer victory will hold. Temporary success without inner mastery is merely a delay of failure. Emotionally driven speech may feel satisfying in the moment, but it always weakens one's position over time. Power leaks from those who cannot keep their own counsel. There is a principle in nature, that which is rare is valuable. The same is true of words. When a person rarely speaks, but always speaks with substance, the world listens. Their words carry weight, because they have been distilled through contemplation. They are not impulsive, they are intentional. This is the essence of controlled speech. It does not mean silence for silence sake, but rather silence used as a forge, where raw thoughts are tempered into pure expressions of will. Controlled speech creates authority. It builds influence, not through volume, but through clarity. It inspires trust, because people sense it comes from depth, not surface performance. It demonstrates maturity, because it shows restraint. In a world addicted to attention, the person who masters speech commands attention effortlessly, not by chasing it, but by being aligned with inner strength. The journey toward mental discipline begins with the choice to slow down your speech, to become the observer of your own words, to resist the impulse to speak merely to fill space or to be heard. Speech, like any tool, gains power when it is used sparingly and precisely. Just as a master sculptor removes only what is necessary from stone, a master of speech removes all that is unnecessary from language. What remains becomes art, pure, intentional, transformative. Controlled speech also eliminates self-sabotage. Many people speak themselves into failure long before failure arrives. They constantly affirm weakness, scarcity, confusion, or doubt in casual conversation. They say things like, "I can't, I never, I'm always stuck," or "nothing ever works for me." These may seem like harmless expressions, but they are in truth affirmations of limitation, and every time such a phrase is spoken, it becomes more deeply rooted in the subconscious mind. A disciplined individual will never allow careless, self-defeating language to pass their lips, because they understand that the subconscious mind listens, accepts, and executes whatever it hears consistently. Mental discipline then begins with self-awareness. One must become acutely conscious of their speech patterns. Do you complain often? Do you interrupt? Do you talk more than you listen? Do you exaggerate, flatter, or manipulate with words? These habits must be purged, for they weaken character. The individual who speaks only with intention cultivates inner strength with every conversation. They rise in influence not because they seek it, but because they embody it. And others instinctively feel the force behind their words. Let others speak idly, let them drown in noise. The one who builds his mind into a fortress, who polishes his thoughts before speaking, who only uses speech to create, clarify, or elevate, this is the individual who will lead, for his words are not echoes of the world around him. They are expressions of the world within. Within the silent chambers of the mind lies a power so vast, so profound, that few ever truly come to understand it. This power governs the course of a man's life. It determines his beliefs, his emotions, his decisions, and ultimately his destiny. This force is the subconscious mind, and though it operates silently and invisibly, its influence is unshakable. It is the soil in which every seed of thought is planted, and from which every action and outcome grows. The subconscious mind does not discriminate. It does not reason. It does not argue. It does not ask whether a thought is true or false, beneficial or destructive. It simply accepts what it is repeatedly given, and once a belief is established within it, the subconscious works tirelessly to bring that belief into physical reality. That is the law. Therefore, the most vital task for any person seeking transformation is to reprogram this inner mechanism, to take conscious control over the instructions being fed into it. And this is where the power of affirmation becomes essential. An affirmation is not merely a string of pleasant words. It is a verbal decree, a spoken intention, a conscious instruction to the subconscious mind. It is the deliberate planting of thought seeds, chosen not by habit or fear, but by vision and will. When these affirmations are repeated with feeling, with focus, and with faith, they bypass the critical filters of the conscious mind and take root in the subconscious. In time they begin to shape not only the thinker's perception, but also his behavior, his habits, and the circumstances that surround him. All beliefs begin as thoughts, and all sustained thoughts become convictions through repetition and emotion. That which is heard again and again, especially when spoken aloud and charged with feeling, becomes internalized. If a man constantly tells himself that he is weak, unworthy, or unlucky, his subconscious accepts it as truth and will reflect it in every area of his life. But if he dares to speak life into his vision, if he repeatedly affirms strength, abundance, clarity, and purpose, even when the outer world does not yet reflect it, he begins the great and noble work of reprogramming the subconscious. The average man speaks affirmations every day, though he does not call them that. He says, "I'm tired," and he feels more tired. He says, "I can't handle this," and his ability diminishes. He says, "I'll never change," and the subconscious mind obeys. What he does not understand is that his casual speech becomes a self-imposed command. He speaks his limitations into being. He strengthens his chains with his own voice. But the disciplined man becomes aware of this truth. He watches his words, he chooses them carefully, and he begins to create new affirmations, not as empty wishes, but as conscious declarations of the life he intends to live. He repeats them daily. He speaks them with belief. He writes them, recites them, visualizes them, and over time his inner world begins to shift. New beliefs take root, new behaviors emerge, and what once seemed impossible becomes natural. The reprogramming of the subconscious mind through affirmation is not a matter of superstition or fantasy. It is a principle grounded in the laws of psychology and mind. It is a process that requires consistency, focus, and emotional intensity. Words alone are not enough. They must be accompanied by belief, and if belief does not yet exist, it must be built through repetition. The subconscious resists change at first. It clings to the familiar, but repetition is the hammer that reshapes it. There is a simple truth. The subconscious becomes what it hears most often, and the voice it hears more than any other is your own. That voice is your most powerful instrument of transformation. When you speak your affirmations, you are not just saying words. You are commanding your mind. You are issuing orders to your internal reality. You are writing the blueprint of your future. Some will say, "I do not feel what I say." But the purpose of affirmation is not to describe your present feelings. It is to command your future condition. Feelings may resist, but repetition will reshape them. Speak the affirmation, even when it feels unnatural. Speak it especially when it feels difficult. For the subconscious does not respond to how you feel. It responds to what you consistently believe, and belief is built through disciplined repetition. Affirmations work most powerfully when spoken in the present tense, as if the desired condition already exists. This creates a vibration of certainty. The subconscious does not respond to future hopes. It responds to present identity. Say not, "I will become strong," but rather, "I am strong, I am focused, I am in control." Speak it until your voice no longer wavers. Speak it until the old programming begins to lose its grip. Speak it until your thoughts, your posture, your actions begin to align with your words. This is the hidden mechanism of transformation. It is not found in outer effort alone, but in inner reconditioning. A man may work with his hands all day and remain poor in mind, but the one who begins to master his speech, to affirm his ideal with purpose and feeling, will begin to rise, not by accident, but by law. He will attract new thoughts, new opportunities, and new strength from within, not because the world changed, but because he did. And it began with a single sentence, repeated with conviction, until the mind accepted it as truth. Speech is not noise. It is not simply air passing through vocal cords, nor is it just a medium for casual expression. Speech is creation. Every word uttered carries with it the vibrational energy of thought and feeling, and once released, it becomes a force that begins to shape circumstances, behaviors, and outcomes. The universe does not respond to intention alone. It responds to the frequency, emotion, and certainty embedded within the words you speak. The individual who understands this truth becomes a conscious creator. The one who ignores it speaks blindly, often constructing his own limitations without realizing it. Each word carries with it a vibration that resonates not only within the mind of the speaker, but in the environment around him. Words are containers. They hold energy. They transmit belief, and belief is the architect of reality. Just as an architect uses a blueprint to construct a building, the subconscious mind uses words to construct a life. When a person speaks with conviction, whether from a place of fear or faith, he is laying down mental architecture. The spoken word becomes a declaration to the subconscious, to the emotional self, and to the infinite intelligence that surrounds and sustains all things. Most people move through life unaware of the power they are wielding with every conversation. They speak without thought, without discipline, and without purpose. They speak of lack, of fear, of chaos, and then wonder why their lives reflect the very things they describe. They say, "I'm always broke, things never work out for me, or I can't catch a break," and then curse fate when their lives echo these declarations. But it is not fate, it is law. It is the law of cause and effect, operating through the medium of speech. What you declare, you eventually experience, because the subconscious does not argue, it only accepts and acts. The disciplined individual, however, speaks with awareness. He understands that words, like seeds, will produce after their kind. A seed of doubt will not grow into confidence. A seed of complaint will not blossom into abundance. He chooses his words as a wise farmer chooses his crops, only that which nourishes the vision, only that which aligns with purpose. He refuses to speak in contradiction to the life he is building. He does not reinforce weakness by voicing it, nor does he affirm fear under the disguise of realism. He understands that every word spoken is an instruction to both mind and matter, and he dares not issue careless commands. There is power in the spoken word because it crystallizes thought. A man may think 1,000 thoughts a day, and many of them will pass without effect. But when he speaks a thought aloud, it is given form. It is pulled from the unseen into the seen. It now has identity, direction, and resonance. This is why affirmations spoken aloud hold more power than thoughts held silently. Sound is energy, and energy creates. The spoken word carries authority, not because of volume, but because of intention. When a man speaks from a place of certainty, life begins to shift to reflect that certainty. It is no coincidence that all sacred traditions acknowledge the creative power of the word. In ancient texts, creation itself begins with speech. The spoken word initiates form. The utterance brings light to the void. This is not metaphor, it is principle. For even in your personal world, creation follows declaration. You speak before you act. You declare before you become. And the more often a word is spoken with belief, the more deeply it becomes etched into the subconscious mind, until it no longer needs to be spoken. It has become identity. A person who wishes to elevate his life must elevate his speech. He must stop speaking of his failures, his hardships, and his misfortunes, as though they are permanent fixtures. He must begin to speak as the person he intends to become. This is not delusion, it is discipline. It is the conscious use of creative power. The weak speak to reflect their reality. The strong speak to direct it. The man who understands the creative nature of his words no longer uses them carelessly, for he knows that every complaint adds another brick to the wall of limitation, and every declaration of power opens a new door of possibility. Speech is also a form of agreement. When you speak a thing, you are aligning yourself with it. You are joining hands with a reality, either one that uplifts or one that diminishes. If you speak often of being tired, you are agreeing with fatigue. If you speak often of being lost, you are agreeing with confusion. But if you speak of growth, direction, clarity, and power, even when they are not yet fully visible, you are aligning with a higher state of being. And through repetition, that higher state begins to take form. The voice you use in the outer world is the echo of the voice you use within. If your self-talk is negative, doubtful, or scattered, your outer speech will reflect that. Therefore, the first step to mastering the creative power of speech is mastering the internal dialogue. Begin to speak to yourself with purpose. Use your voice to build, not to break. Let your words become tools, not weapons. Speak to the person you are becoming, not the person you were. There is no neutral speech. Every word builds or destroys, empowers or weakens, uplifts or lowers. The man who understands this chooses to speak less, but with greater power. He refuses to entertain idle chatter. He avoids gossip, criticism, and complaint, for he knows that every word has weight, and nothing is without consequence. He does not speak to impress. He speaks to create, and each time he opens his mouth, it is to align more fully with the image he holds in his mind.